Ashwin Sanghi is a prominent Indian author known for his expertise in blending historical and mythological elements into compelling fiction. He has made a significant impact in the literary world with his notable works, which include Chanakya's Chant and the Krishna Key. Ashwin Sanghi's writing style combines meticulous research with a knack for creating suspenseful narratives, making his books a favorite among readers who appreciate historical and mythological thrillers. His ability to interweave facts with fiction has earned him a reputation as a master storyteller. Ashwin Sanghi continues to contribute richly to the literary landscape, captivating audiences with his unique genre blending approach. Today, he is with the Prajavahini team in promoting his new book, Magicians of Mazda.
Festival when you're presenting your new book here.
Bangalore Literature Festival is a cultural event that has grown over so many years. I remember attending one of the first, probably at least more than a decade ago. And since then it has grown in stature as well as in size. But the most important thing about Bangalore is that this is still a city which is in love with books. So when you come for a festival in Bengaluru, it has a different meaning altogether because people don't come for literature festivals just like that. They come because they are genuinely readers. That makes all the difference. There are many literature festivals all over the country. But the difference you feel in places like Bangalore or Pune or Kolkata or Chennai is that these are the cities where actually people are passionate about reading and writing.
When you're on stage, I'm trying to quote you as you speak, like when we put a pen on the paper and write, we become the gods. We write our own destiny, pretty much. So how much of it do you believe when you're writing a mythological story, and how much of it can be relatable to the current world scenario?
Oh well, remember one thing, history always repeats itself. There are patterns in history. So what you are seeing today is probably something that has also been seen 1,000 years ago and something that has been seen 5,000 years ago. So it's just a question of the cycle. So I have always believed that one of the best things that we as writers can do is to make new things sound familiar and to make familiar things sound new. And that's what I do. Because very often when you are reading something, you think that you're reading about today, or you think that you are reading about the ancient day, and then you realize, oh, I could easily apply this to the modern day.
Yes, absolutely. And how challenging or how joyful it is to balance the mythological story to fiction, relate it to today's world.
I think it is a challenge because these are the issues that I write about are not just issues which are matter of stories. They are also matters of deep faith. And so whenever you are writing stories which touch on someone's personal faith, then you owe it to your reader to be extra cautious and extra careful in terms of investing the amount of time and research that is needed in order to bring out that story properly. So my personal view is that when I'm writing in the Bharat series, the time when I'm evaluating what idea is in terms of which idea I will write about, then at 12 months when I'm actually doing my research, and at the time when I'm doing my plotting, those are the times when I don't think of myself as a writer or an artist. Those are the times when I simply think of myself as a person who is digging into history, myth, philosophy, science, and attempting to bring it to my reader. But once I sit down to start writing, which is the 6-month or 9-month process, at that time, then I let my freedom go. And at that time, I just sort of go with the flow. Because by then, most of the hard work has already been done by me.
So can you please elaborate a little more on the research part? Because it's quite interesting. Like a common man, you could go in search of history, and every time you would find something that's so fascinating to connect with your story. So how is that process like?
The to my mind, uh, you know, research is what makes your story seem far more real than it is. I write in the world of fiction, but I want my story to be believable. And the only way that you can make it believable is by bringing in your research into that story. Now, of course, it's a challenge because you put too much of research into the story, then you lose the value of the story itself. On the other hand, if it's only the story without the research, then in that case, it's like any other story. Then you're no longer dealing with that tantalizing zone where fiction could appear like fact. So, I think the challenge for any writer like me is how do you balance fact and fiction? That's the biggest challenge.
Right. When you are exploring your creative barriers and where you want to cross your own barriers, how does that give? Where can you strike a balance in that?
The balance is already established because at that point of time, I have already invested more than a year on the research. I've already invested 3 or 4 months on the plotting. So by then, I already know where my story starts, where my story ends, and what happens along the way. So, in other words, now when I'm exploring my freedom, I'm only exploring my freedom within the boundaries that I've already set.
Wonderful. Yeah. And how different is this particular collection of Asda different to your previous writings?
Well, the one thing you'll see in all the books in the Bharat series is that they may be on diverse topics and they may be based out of diverse regions. Something is in Persia, or something is in Israel, or something is in China. But ultimately, when you dig 2 or 3 layers down, you will find that they ultimately connect to an idea called Bharat. And by Bharat, I'm not meaning a region. By Bharat, I am meaning philosophy, religion, culture, thought process, value system, art, science, many aspects which link this region with many other regions which you may not consider to be Bharat. But at the end of the day, that body of work is what constitutes Bharat. So that is something which you will find is the common thread, the connective tissue across all the books.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. Thanks, sir. What is your special interest? I mean, we are rich as a country, as a culture. But what is your specific interest to choose mythology as your topic and go forward with your efforts?
It's not mythology per se, because I, in any case, do not necessarily care for that word mythology. I genuinely believe that what we have in our country is itihas, and all history ultimately is told with the bias of a narrator. So, and that is even what in your textbooks, that there is the narrator's bias. So we have been brought up in an environment where we've been told that Ramayana and Mahabharata are mythology. I believe they are itihas. And one of the objectives of my writing is to be able to make you understand that just because we were not concerned with the absolute truth doesn't imply that we weren't concerned with telling the story, but exploring the deeper truth behind that story. So, in that sense, I believe that we were never that much focused on a date or on a particular king or a particular dynasty. We were more concerned with what did that particular king or dynasty or reign, what did that mean? What was the deeper meaning of that? I think that is where we are coming from, which unfortunately many people take it to mean that this is myth. It's not.
Coming back to the same point again, sir, whatever history we have today is somebody's perspective. Some king, whoever was winning a battle would have asked their follower to write it. It's never a story from exactly what has happened. It's always one person's perspective. So when you are doing your research, how much are you influenced with the amount of history that's available for you to research?
No, as far as I'm concerned, I'm very clear that history is just a version of events. And you can have multiple versions of that same event. We have an event in 1857, which is known as the Great Indian Revolt. That same event in England is taught as the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. In fact, in schools in England, it's not even taught because it's not considered an important enough an event. So the question that then you have to ask yourself is that which version will you accept? That 1857 was a Sepoy Mutiny, or was it the Great Indian Rebellion? So it was, I think, George Santayana who said that history is a pack of lies about events that never happened, written by people who were never there. So if history is a pack of lies about events that never happened, written by people who were never there, then in that case, what you call mythology? Sometimes I feel mythology is more truthful than history. Because we were always concerned, rather than looking at the events, we were concerned with exploring the deeper truth.
What's your purpose of this book, and what are you expecting your audience to take away from that?
I would say that ultimately, I as a writer, I am very clear in my mind that 70% of what I do has to be to entertain. If I can't entertain you, you will not turn the page. 20% of the way, I would say that probably you will come across certain material in the book which will make you say, "Oh, I was not aware of this." That's the point where I've thrown in a little bit of education. And then by the time you reach the end of the book, hopefully you will have a moment of an aha moment. That why did I not think of it this way? That's the moment I call it enlightenment. So for me, it's a 70-20-10 rule. 70% entertain, 20% educate, 10% enlighten. That's all I want.
Wonderful, amazing. And hopefully your book brings a lot of people.
Thank you.